y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shanice. For those of you coming here for the first time, or you can call me Shani. If you're new here, don't forget to like or subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification button so you can be notified whenever I post a new video. So my previous videos, you will see me talk about how I'm affected as a nurse, how I'm affected by COVID-19, and then you see I did a follow-up video to that because once I did the first video, the next day I went to work and I was told that I'm gonna be floated to work at bedside nursing, and I don't normally work bedside nursing. So today was my first day being floated out. So just a little background. I'm a nurse. I do administrative nursing. I don't really do bedside nursing. I don't really see patients on a day-to-day basis. In person, I don't. But now I find out with the whole COVID and, I guess being short-staffed, a lot of the nurses who don't normally work bedside nursing are getting floated out to work bedside nursing. So the hospital I work for, they also have lots of different clinics throughout the state that I live in. So because of COVID, mostly all of those outpatient clinics are closed, and a lot of those nurses they all got routed to the hospital. So they all got, most of them got put into like a float pool to work at the hospital. That's where I'm at. I'm at the hospital. And I'm now included in that float pool basically. So today was my first day being floated to one of the units in the hospital, and I was floated to the COVID floor, of course. I was floated to the floor with the COVID patients, not specifically on the unit that has all the COVID patients, because they do have a designated unit for the COVID patients. I just happened to be on the same floor as that unit, but not necessarily in that unit today. The unit that I worked in today was down the hall from the COVID unit, and they do have a handful of COVID patients on the unit I worked in today. But because I haven't worked on the floor as a bedside nurse since I worked at the hospital. So I basically was placed with another nurse to work with her and basically to shadow her and for her to be my preceptor, to get me familiar with the unit, how to use their EMR and stuff like that. The nurse that I was paired with, this is her first day back to work. So she was out for 2 weeks for suspected COVID. And she just came back today. She tested negative. She just came back today. But she's basically telling me that, mostly all the nurses that I see right there today on the unit, mostly all of them are new from somewhere else. They're not new, they're just from somewhere else. They were floated to the unit from someplace else. Like they worked other facilities, other clinics for the same company. She was saying basically all the regular nurses, mostly all of them are out sick. They've been out sick or suspected being sick. So they either are tested positive for COVID, or they have the signs and symptoms of COVID and they had to be out because they're showing signs and symptoms of COVID-19. So it looks like that's happening throughout the hospital, and that's kind of why right now they're so adamant about all these different nurses who normally don't work the bedside nursing get floated to bedside nursing. So because she just came back today, being out for possibly COVID, when she was out, they didn't give her any COVID patients today. So therefore, I didn't end up working with any COVID patients today. But obviously, that's going to change. Eventually, I'm going to have to work with the COVID patients. What else? So she was saying part of the reason too why a lot of the nurses on her department, on her unit, were out sick is because when they first started getting patients on that unit, like COVID patients on their unit, they weren't properly protected. They weren't getting all the proper PPEs that they should get. And then, for instance, they have a patient who's COVID yeah, that particular nurse who's working with that patient will get the PPEs, but then you have another patient down the hall who has like, signs and symptoms of COVID, and then that patient tests and comes back negative, then the nurse who's working with that patient, basically, they don't get their full PPEs because this patient tested negative. The problem with that is a couple days later, maybe 2 or 3 days later down the road, this same patient who just tested negative is now showing symptoms, and of course they test them and they come back positive. But guess what? Within that time that they got tested negative, and days later they're not positive, within that couple of days time span, these nurses are working in that room with these patients who were tested negative and not being properly protected. And then it comes out that these patients they really were positive. So of course you have all these nurses are out because they were working with patients who they believe were negative, who got tested and came back negative, but maybe a day or two later, they come back positive. These nurses are not really being protected. So now just this week, the hospital came up with this new thing where anyone that comes in the building have to wear a mask. This started 3 days ago. We're now in April. And this just now started 3 days ago. The hospital has a policy where you come in the building, you have to have a mask. The hospital is not providing you with those masks. They're only providing masks for people who work, for staff members who work in clinical areas. So if you're just coming in, you're not really in a clinical area. If you work in an office setting, the hospital is not going to provide you a mask, but you do need to wear one when you come to work, basically. So yeah. So I'm the first nurse there's 5 nurses in my department. I'm the first one because I'm the last one hired. I'm the first nurse to get floated out. I spoke to one of the other nurses. I think he's getting floated out, probably starting tomorrow. He's getting sent out to one that he doesn't know where he's going. But it's crazy. We're all putting ourselves at risk. I mean, you become a nurse to help people, but you don't become a nurse so you could die or get sick from what your patients have. There's all these, the department have all these guidelines of how to wear PPEs. Let me tell you, a lot of those guidelines are thrown out the door. They're not even being followed. My department gave me a mask and tell me to wear it for a week. We have to wear a mask for 1 week before they give us a new one. And the only way in between that you get a new one is if maybe it becomes too filthy for you to wear it. Okay, then if it's visible filthy, then they'll give you a new one. My supervisor told us last week our N95s, which we get one, and we have to reuse it and put in a brown paper bag. She tells us that her bosses are telling her that when we finish with our PPEs, when they get so soiled that we can't no longer use it for how many days we've been using it for, we have to put it in the recycle to be recycled so it could go back into circulation to be reused. We don't know how it's getting recycled. We don't know who's recycling it. Is it being recycled in a hospital? Is it actually being sent to a recycle center to be recycled? Like you put your bottles and cans out, they get recycled? Is that how our masks are getting recycled? I don't know. She don't know. And I basically said to her, I think this is one rule that needs to be broken. These recycled N95 masks. Because basically you're saying a person who's wearing a mask, they had it on for how many days, they're breathing in it, they're snot running all over it, they're drooling all over it, they're sweating all over it, and now now it's time to toss it and get a new one, they're telling us to put it in the bin to be recycled to use so somebody else could use it. And I know some of the staff members were joking, we're going to write our names on ours so that when they recycle it, at least we get our mask back. We don't know that. We don't know where these masks are going to be recycled. We don't know whose mask we're getting back. We don't know. But that's what we are being told to do. N95 masks are very difficult to breathe in. They're so tight on supplies. It's like on lock, trying to get supplies. You have to work in these areas, but they're telling you they don't have enough supplies to give you. They give you a supply, you better hold on to it with your dear life. You get a mask, they're basically telling you to hold on to it with your dear life. You get an N95, you better hold on to it. You get a face shield, you better hold on to it. The goggles, you better hold on to it, because you don't know if you're gonna get another one. But today I'm on the unit, and basically all the nurses, the CNAs who are working on the floor, they all have on these white jumpsuits over their scrubs. And I'm asking the nurse supervisor, I'm like, can I get a one of these jumpsuits to put on, because everybody else has a jumpsuit on. She's telling me, oh no, I can't give you one. You gotta go upstairs to the nursing office. The nursing office is only open in the night. They come in, I think, in the evening shift, and they leave in the morning. They leave by 7 o'clock, they're out. So now it's like 9 o'clock, I'm like, I need to get a jumpsuit to cover myself up. She's telling me, oh, I can't give you one. I'm telling her, look around, all your staff that's on the floor. This is my first time on this unit. This is my first time on the floor, period, in this hospital. This is my first time working bedside nursing, period, in this hospital. And I'm looking at all the nurses around, they're all rocking all their PPEs, and I'm asking you for a PPE, and you're telling me, oh, I'm sorry, I can't give it to you. And I'm telling her, you have it sit in the box right there, open that box and give me one. So finally she gave me one. And then at the end of the day, I asked her for a new surgical mask, because the one I had it for days. And like, remember I said, the hospital won't let you in now unless you're wearing a mask. So halfway through the day, my nose is itching, and I took allergy medicine before I went to work just to be safe. I took allergy medication, so I'm not sneezing or my eyes are not itching throughout the day, because I know I'm gonna have to wear this mask. And I said to her towards the end of the shift, like, can I have a new mask? Because this one I've had since last week. Can I have a new mask? She says, I'll give you one tomorrow when you come in. I said, no, you need to give me one before I go home, because when I come in tomorrow morning, I need to have a mask to get into the building. So she went into this whole spiel, oh, I need to save the mask for the evening shift and the overnight shift. I'll give you one later. I'm gonna go down to the basement and get one. Meanwhile, she has 2 boxes of masks in her office on her desk. And I'm like, I'm gonna need you to open one of those boxes and give me a mask. So finally, after explaining the situation to her twice about having to have a mask to come in the building in the first place, finally she gave me a mask. Now mind you, while I'm having this conversation with her, she's handing out masks to all the evening shifts that are coming in, all the aides and the nurses. She's handing them their mask. And I'm telling you that my mask, if you physically look at it, it's raggedy. The elastic band that goes around your ear is worn out, it's stretched out, it's time for it to go in the trash. And she's looking at me and telling me she can't give me a mask because she needs to make sure all other people who's coming have a mask. I've been here all day, and I'm coming back tomorrow. I need a mask. So finally she gave me the mask, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna have to call your unit and tell them that they should have given you supplies. No, honey, you're responsible for giving me supplies. I'm on your unit working on your department. You're responsible to make sure me, who are working on your unit, it's your responsibility to make sure I have my PPEs, not my old department. It's your responsibility. You're the nursing supervisor here, and I'm your nurse working here. You're to make sure I'm protected. So why you tell me you need to call them and make sure? I already know they're going to tell you that's your responsibility. But that was my day 1 working on the COVID floor. Luckily, today I didn't have to work with COVID patients, but I mean, they have nurses who's assigned to COVID patients and also assigned to patients who are non-COVID, which doesn't make any sense. Why are you assigning a nurse with COVID patients along with non-COVID patients? If you're going to assign a nurse to work with COVID patients, for that shift, that nurse should only work with COVID patients. Because a lot of times, being that everyone is not following the rules, the standard PPE rules of what you should do, technically everything you wear is supposed to come off once you come out that patient's room, but you still have, they go from patient room to patient room, they're wearing their little hats, they're wearing their boots. If you're working with a COVID patient, you should technically not have a patient who does not have COVID. And that's basically what I'm saying, and that's what the nurses are telling me, that this is what's been going on. So obviously, they're all out sick. If they're in the regular areas, they're sitting down in the clothes, and we're all sitting down in our jumpsuit, protective jumpsuit that we've been wearing from room to room. This is why all the nurses are sick. It's a lot from cross-contamination. They're all getting sick. They're getting sick from that, and from the fact that they were forced to work with patients who were tested negative with not wearing proper PPEs. That's a big issue also why they're getting sick. But that was my experience and what I'm seeing working my day one, being floated to a COVID floor. And is it gonna get better? I don't know, we'll see. Just pray for me, y'all, because I'm gonna need y'all prayer. Because I'm gonna be doing this for apparently a while. I'm gonna be on the floor for a few weeks, most likely, they're saying. Give me strength, Lord. Anyway, that was my rant on my day one working on the COVID floor. Oh, y'all like my shirt? This is my old t-shirt I'm wearing. I didn't realize it till I was getting ready to film. It says, I'm a nurse. What's your superpower? Is that what it says? I'm reading upside down. Yeah, I'm a nurse. What's your superpower? Yeah. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch you in a later video. I'll keep updating you how I'm doing, how I'm surviving as a nurse during this COVID era. Yeah.